Ramakrishnam Jagamami Muhurmuhu. So we just completed the 9th chapter, and today we will begin the 10th chapter, which has been given the name Vibhuti Yoga, the yoga of divine manifestation. So as Arjuna wanted to see the various forms of the Lord, divine Lord, and the topics that will be covered in this chapter, chapter number 10, is Ishvara is the source of everything. That is the first part of this chapter. Then knowledge of Vibhuti, the glory of the Lord, that fosters devotion. So you may ask the question, what's the purpose of knowing the Vibhuti? As Sri Ramakrishna sometimes used to tell, that a person, if you want to know how much property the master has got, and if the servant doesn't bother, he just goes to the master and then he will get whatever he wants. That is one side. The pure bhakti does not require of a devotee to know all the glories of the Lord. So the glories are important only for people who are sort of beginners. So first, the Vibhuti itself may be necessary. The idea of the divine manifestations of the Lord may be attractive to some people whose faith has not been established. But then that is followed by another topic, which is the Buddhi Yoga. So what does Buddhi Yoga mean? So that is also discussed. And the idea of bliss is also described, that wherever we see a particle of bliss, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, it is a manifestation of the divine Lord. And the Vibhutis are then defined. The essence of the Vibhutis are explained. So all these things form the contents of chapter number 10, that is known as Vibhuti Yoga. So as you all know, all the 9 chapters that we discussed, they are all different yogas, beginning with Vishad Yoga. So even a kind of Vishad or some kind of depression is necessary to initiate a person towards spiritual reality or towards the spiritual goal. Because if everything is going on fine in his life, then it is very rare that you will find that people are spontaneous, unless they have very good samskaras, they'll not be spontaneously attracted to spiritual life. So many times it is found that even some kind of vishada in life forces a person to resort to spiritual life and to seek a permanent solution to all his problems. Problems may be temporary, but a stage will come when that even the temporary solutions which a man seeks to mitigate his suffering, his worries, his anxieties, they don't seem to work. And when that happens, one will find that he will be attracted, a person will be attracted to the spiritual path because it's in the very nature of Prakriti, that Prakriti is a mixture of sorrow and joy. The joy is not unalloyed. The bliss, which is the which we find in this Vibhuti, which has been described in this chapter, which is evident that God's glories, if we know and if we see the presence of God in everything, it gives rise to unalloyed bliss. Whereas the joy which we get in the world is a temporary joy. So that's why we saw in some previous chapter that anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. Because it is anitya, the joy also is anitya, and that is why it is asukha. So if even joy, if it is not permanent, if it is not unalloyed, not mixed with sorrow, then only it is of some value. So the goal in this chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, the first thing that is established is that Ishvara is the source of everything, whatever we do. Whatever be your preoccupations, whatever be your occupations, karma, swadharma, all those things are secondary. But behind all this thing is Ishvara. Now Arjuna needed this kind of knowledge. Otherwise, the Lord had to give him a divine chakshu. We'll discuss that. The first, number 1 to verse number 6, Bhagavan Uvacha, it begins with Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. So the Lord is telling him, now I'll show you my divine glories, because he felt that Arjuna needed, before this there were 9 chapters, so many wonderful things he told Arjuna, what is his duty, what is his swadharma, why should he fight the war, and many things were clearly explained to him. Even the the Raj Yoga, the Dhyana Yoga, and all the different facets of spiritual life were explained. But now he wants to place or make that knowledge, the foundation of that knowledge, spiritual knowledge which Arjuna has got, on firmer foundations, so that once he gets a inkling of the power of Ishvara, the Vibhutis of Ishvara. Vibhutis are by themselves, they may not be important from the spiritual point of view, but for common people who are on the path to spirituality, these Vibhutis say that Ishvara is possessed, he possesses these qualities which are not found in human beings. And then the Buddhi Yoga, the knowledge of Vibhuti, what it does, after explaining Ishvara is the source of everything, the knowledge of Vibhuti, what it does, it encourages or it fosters devotion. That is discussed. So we'll take the first 6 verses. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Bhuya eva Mahabaho, Shrunu me Paramam Vachaha, Yatteham Priyamanaya, Vakshami Hitakamaya. Means the first verse, the Lord says, Bhuya eva Mahatbaho, means Bhuya eva Mahatbhava, Shrunu me Paramam Vachaha. That means, verily, again, you listen to, O mighty arm. Mighty arm means that is one of the names of Arjuna. So Mahabaho, he's now and then you will find Gudakesha. There are so many words, adjectives, or so many qualities of Arjuna. The Lord is taking every opportunity to remind him of his wonderful qualities. So just by reminding, Mahabaho means mighty armed. Again, verily Mahabaho, hear me, Shrunu me Paramam Vacha, listen to my supreme word. Of course, Raj Guhya was the most secret divine knowledge he has imparted. But now he says, listen to my supreme knowledge, the supreme word. Yat means which, that which, to thee, yat, that I am telling you. Priyamanaya, who are my beloved. So there are 2 conditions here. First is you are not only mighty armed, but you are dear to me. And that is why I want to shower my grace upon you, and I will declare to you. Vakshyami. Vakshyami means I will declare without any doubts. Your doubts will be cleared. I am declaring it. When the Lord declares, there is no reason for any suspicion or doubt. When human beings tell you something, you may doubt, but when the Lord shows his real form, Vishwarupa, then how can Arjuna, and because he is Priya, Priyamanaya, you are Priya, who are beloved to me. So they say it is only a few people who could see the Vishwarup Darshan, though they were all ready for war. There were so many Kauravas and Pandavas facing each other, but by the divine grace, only Arjuna and some others could see. We'll see that now. So hita kamyaya means I am wishing, because I want your welfare, because you are beloved, I am discussing, or I am declaring, as it were, my glories. So by knowing these glories, you will be encouraged to accept Ishvara as the source of everything. That is the idea here in this verse. So the Lord says, Oh, once again, O mighty armed one, listen to my supreme word. That's the literal meaning. Out of a desire to do you good, I wish to speak of it to your delight. So the Lord is pleased with Arjuna's keen interest in hearing his divine glories. He is very happy that he's showing some kind of curiosity, some kind of yearning to listen to the glories of the Lord. See, normally people, they are so happy with the toys that Prakriti or the Lord gives them that they don't think it is worthwhile to know many things about God. They said, okay, we have some kind of religion, we will pray, we do pray, we do go to temples, we form a, since we belong to a particular religion, we just follow some of the commandments or maybe some of the rituals of that religion, and that's where the religion ends. But people don't have the same kind of curiosity they have for the things of the world. See, for example, when we study Prakriti, a nature, a person who is keen to study some secular subject, how much interest he shows, how much of interest he shows in studying the different wonders of nature. So, but very few people want to know something which is beyond the Ishvara who is behind Prakriti. That is why in one of the incidents, if we remember, Swami Ramakrishnananji was once asked, why don't you visit the Himalayas? They're so beautiful. Naturally, anybody would be, if we visit the glorious Himalayas, people will be really impressed, and that makes people go to these mountains now and then just to enjoy the beauty of Prakriti. But for Shashi Maharaj or for Ramakrishnananji, he said, what is the fun? There, I see stones here, the stones there, maybe there's a little ice there on the top, snow is there, but they are all stones piled upon each other. They're just, what are these mountains? I don't have to go all the way to see these big stones piled on the top of each other. So that was his attitude, because he was finding so much delight in serving Sri Ramakrishna, in seeking the Purusha. He wanted to hear, he wanted to know the supreme consciousness which is animating the Prakriti. He was not, but all people are not like that. Arjuna is compared to some other people, they are just maybe through Arjuna is addressing the common devotee. And he says, first, by being attracted by the divine glories of the Lord, of Ishvara himself, then slowly he will take up a higher and higher aspects of reality. So that is the idea. Now, the psychological fact here is very clear, that wonderful is the teacher and equally clever is the pupil. Ashcharya Vakta Kushalasya Shrota. Shrota means one who is listening. The disciple has to be equally clever. It will not do if one of them is great. So here the pupil, that is Arjuna, is competent. That's why Sri Krishna is praising him. You are a Mahabaho, you are very dear to me. The reason being is that he is a very clever pupil, very obedient pupil, a very obedient disciple. So wonderful is the teacher. The Upanishad says, for the Vedantic teaching to bear fruit, not only should the teacher be perfect and wonderful, the student also should be receptive enough, and he should also have that capacity to understand what the guru or what the teacher is telling him. So here it is proved what the Lord imparts now through this 10th chapter is the life-saving message of spirituality to Arjuna, because he considers him to be fit. So the topic dealt in chapter 7 and 9, which we saw earlier, the previous chapter, is again supplemented. It's just a continuation. Of course, all the verses are discussed elsewhere. Many times they are repeated, and comprehensive knowledge of those topics which were discussed in the previous chapter, they are dealt with in the succeeding chapter. So not that each chapter, you may say, successively discusses in greater and greater detail and a comprehensive inquiry into the glory of the Lord, what the Lord stands for. It clarifies, not only clarifies the Buddhi Yoga, or promotes Buddhi Yoga, a proper understanding of the spiritual realities, but also it promotes devotion for those who follow the path of devotion, who believe in a God with form, Ishvara with form, an avatara. In this case, Sri Krishna is the avatara. So the reason being is, one cannot really know unless one loves. Loving and knowing are connected to each other. You see, if you love a subject, suppose somebody loves mathematics, then he will somehow manage to learn that subject. He will know all the intricacies of, but if he doesn't love that subject, then if he does it as a cumbersome exercise which he is forced to do by the teachers, then he will not gain the full knowledge of that particular subject. One has to love the subject to know it. So here, by proper understanding of the concept of Ishvara, what the glories of Ishvara are, indirectly, Sri Krishna is trying to promote devotion, so that he will be more devoted, and more the grace, the more devoted you are, then you become a conduit of the infinite grace of the Lord. So Bhakti Yoga actually aims at that. So before the grandeur and sublimity of the Lord, even the most atheistic of disciples, he will be surprised, and in reverence his head has to bow whenever we see glory. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say that wherever I see some special quality in some human being, whatever it may be, some talent for good character, a good nature, a very philanthropic attitude like Vidyasagar. So he used to go all the way. When somebody asked, why do you go to see all these people? He says, wherever there is greatness, this idea will be conveyed in this chapter also. Wherever there is some special quality, we should know it for certain. It is because of the grace of the Lord. Now, because if Arjuna is a Mahabhaho, if he is a strong person who can single-handedly destroy the Kaurava army, he has developed that strength. It is the strength of the Lord. So, but what greatness there can be in a personality who is bound in this mortal coil? An avatara, whatever it may be, he has to be born as a human being. So what greatness there can be? That's why he says, Name viduhu suraganaha prabhavam na maharshaya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashah. Now what he means is that the meaning of this, neither the hosts of devas nor the great rishis, means they are all supposed to be, the devas are a superior type of beings, even superior to human beings, and also the great rishis who are the excellent specimen of human beings. Even they, Sri Krishna is telling them, they don't know my origin. For in every respect, I am the source of the devas and the great rishis. Since I am their source, they do not know me, because they cannot, only if you detach yourself, and if you don't know what is making you run. For example, a person, if through ego he thinks he is doing something, then he will not know. But if he surrenders to the Lord and he thinks that in every moment it is the Lord who is making me do, then he really understands the nature of karma, the nature of our life. So the source, Ishvara, as a source of everything that we see around us, solves a lot of our problems and gives us real knowledge. Otherwise, even if you are a Deva means a superior, some kind of godhood due to lot of punya karma, or rishis by lot of tapasya or spiritual practices, they might have attained that state. But if the ego is there, if they don't know this secret, they don't accept the vibhutis of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, then they will not. So this verse says, uh, it is the example that is given is the birth of the son and his progress in life is known to the father. The father knows because he has given birth. He knows everything. But the birth and boyhood of the father remains beyond the ken of the son. The son cannot possibly understand when the son, especially when the son is young, the child is young. He doesn't know the glory of his father. He just knows he is my father at the most. Whereas the son knows, my son was like this, how did I educate him, how he became what he is today. So he knows every inch of the journey of the son. But the father knows every inch of the journey of the son, or the mother knows every inch of the journey if they are involved in the upbringing of the child. But the child cannot know how the father was raised, what made him strong, and what are the different uh, factors that made him what he is today. Similarly, the Brahman is the source, he is the witness, and everything that is in the universe, including Prakriti and all the Prakriti's manifestations, come from him and they merge into him. This eternal Brahman, which is to a certain extent, not fully, is recognized by perfected beings. That's why they say rishis have, but even then they don't have a full knowledge unless the Lord graciously imparts that knowledge. But they may have some inkling. That's how we get all the Shastras. But Shastras cannot describe. That is why when Girish Ghosh once was asked by Thakur, by Sri Ramakrishna, see, I hear that you are going on telling everybody that I am an Avtara. What have you understood? I mean, is it just because you respect me or you have given the power of attorney to me, you are praising me? Or have you really understood what an Avtara is? Have you known the glory of an incarnation, the glory of an Ishvara? And then are you saying it out of a conviction, or is it just out of some kind of faith or belief? So his glory in entirety can never be known by the hosts of saints and sages who have praised the Lord in their own way. I'm not saying they don't have the full knowledge, but what it means here is that even the sages and even the devas, they know only a little bit of my glory. Unless I decide, that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna, unless I decide to impart the knowledge of Ishvara in its entirety, even the sages can't. They only Ishvara remains only partially revealed, whether he embodies himself as Rama, Krishna, or any other incarnation. So Sri Ramakrishna's beautiful quotation we have to remember here. Sri Ramakrishna explains the same idea in the Gospel, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the Ramakrishna Kathamrita. He says, the divine breeze blowing from the ocean of Satchidananda Brahman. The divine breeze, the words are very important. It is like Satchidananda Brahman is the transcendental Brahman. But when he manifests himself as this universe, it is as it were a divine breeze is blowing, the breeze of grace, and it transports people into ecstasy. Sanaka, they are the ancient rishis, the founders of our scriptures. Sanatana and other ancient rishis got themselves perfected by this divine breeze. Divine breeze means the divine grace which was showered upon them by Satchidananda himself. Because of their grace, these people realized his greatness. A mere glimpse of this ocean, or ocean of Satchidananda, that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, sent Narada into raptures. Narada was filled with devotion. You see, Narada is a wonderful personality, singing the praises of Narayana. He'll always chant the name of Narayana, chant the glories. That was his only job in his life. He used to travel from place to place. He never stayed in a particular place. And he used to explain the glory of the Lord, go on singing the praise of the Lord everywhere. So even a mere glimpse, he had not understood. That's why uh, Girish Ghosh said, rishis like Valmiki and Vyasa could not explain your glory properly through their Ramayana and other books, Bharata. Then who am I? He says, they are rishis. I am a simple playwright, a simple person who writes some few dramas. If they could not describe you fully, I mean, they cannot describe the Lord fully, Ishvara fully, in all his aspects, then what hope is there for ordinary intellects? So, different examples Sri Ramakrishna is giving, that Narada also, a small glimpse he had of the ocean. He did not even, maybe he did not even touch the ocean. But he went on praising wherever he went, he praised Narayana as if he knew everything. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna jokingly told ki Girish goes and preaches that I am an avatara. What does he understand? What he meant was, has he really understood the significance of what an avatara is and what an avatara's divine glories are? So then he says, he gives another example, Sri Ramakrishna. He says, Shuka, the born Brahmagani, was born as a Brahmagani from his mother's womb. In fact, they say he did not want to take birth. He knew the pain. He was free right from birth. So he was a Brahmagani. He had the knowledge of Brahman. So his birth was just to explain the glories of the Lord. But he says, Narada did not even touch. From a distance, he saw the ocean of Sachidananda, and then he started praising and singing the glories. And Narada is considered to be a great devotee of Narayana. Whereas even Shukadeva was superior to all of them. He touched, at least he didn't only have a glimpse of the ocean, but he went and touched the water even once, the water or the ocean of... One sec. The ocean of Brahman, he just touched that, and then he wandered the whole world as a divine lad. Now, Sri Ramakrishna goes one stage ahead. First, he starts with Narada, who just had a glimpse of the ocean of Brahman, that is Sachidananda Brahman, and he started praising. But more authentic than his praise is Shukadeva's praise, who praise or Shukadeva's understanding of Ishvara, because he touched that water. Whereas Narada just had a glimpse, Shukadeva at least touched that water. So he knew more about the ocean than Narada. Then he says, Shiva, the cosmic teacher. Shiva is supposed to be the Adi Guru. So Shiva, all the gurus, they consider Shiva to be their Adi Guru. No, there cannot be a greater guru than him. He is the cosmic teacher. Even he took only 3 sips from this great ocean. So that is Sri Ramakrishna's way of describing. More than Shukadeva, Shukadeva just touched. Whereas Shiva took a few sips from this great ocean and became flooded with transcendental bliss. Shiva is always in the transcendental bliss in meditation, deep meditation, absorbed in the bliss of Brahman. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna says, that will give you an idea how little we know of the glory of the Lord. Then he finally ends with this sentence. Sri Ramakrishna says, indeed, who can measure the depth or the characteristic of the infinite ocean of Brahman? So when we try to understand, there is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says, Tattvataha, to know the Lord as he is in full measure. If such a person only will become a Brahmagani, or maybe will become free from this bondage of the universe. So one cannot measure the depth or the characteristics of this infinite ocean of Brahman. Only its partial manifestations. That is why we have the concept of Purna Avatara. Some people say Krishna was the Purna Avatara. Some are Ansha Avatara. They don't manifest the entire glory. Not that they are superior or inferior, but they manifest a little of the glory, and people get surprised and they are awed by the glory or the Vibhuti that they see in these people. Why avatars? Even some people who have exceptional talents, when other people, normal people see them, they think, oh, there is such a great power of the Lord is working through these people. So then the question now arises before we discuss the third verse. As I told you, the first 6 verses discuss the true nature of Ishvara as far as possible. Because here Sri Krishna is trying to do the impossible. Unless you see this Vibhuti, unless you experience it, which Arjuna did, no amount of description will help. But at least it will give you some indication of the glory of the Lord. So then how does Brahman, if only partially, if we know, if we have knowledge of Brahman, if we get, like Shiva, like Shuka, and like Narada, if we are overwhelmed even by a little glory, then how does this Brahman show us his full glory to ordinary aspirants? These people are great people, the Devas or the Rishis, like Shuka, Shiva, and all those Adi Guru. We come nowhere near them. So what will happen to simple aspirants, ordinary aspirants? Don't we have any hope? So to clarify that doubt, lest Arjuna think, he should not feel that, oh, that is meant for these great people. They will understand in full measure. For us, a little knowledge of Ishvara is enough, as most of us have a lukewarm approach to religion. We just don't pester our teacher, our guru, with questions. But there are some disciples, like Naren, for example, when he went to Sri Ramakrishna, he went on asking questions. People thought, why is he not just accepting what his guru is saying? It's not that he had any irreverence or he had less reverence than the other disciples, but his thirst for knowledge, he wanted to know everything. Just as here, Arjuna is going on asking him questions. Pariprashnena, pranipatena, first you should be humble. Pariprashnena, Lord himself had told Arjuna that don't stop, go on asking questions. Tad vidhi, know that knowledge, that complete knowledge. Pranipatena means start with humility. First of all, one should have a feeling, or one should have a idea that one knows very little of the Lord. If we think we know everything, then the Lord says, okay, be happy with the knowledge you have, the incomplete knowledge that you have. But if you always have the feeling, if somebody always has the feeling that he has to know more, then the Guru also feels very happy. And that's why Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, tad vidhi, to know that supreme truth, pranipatena, pariprashnena, sevaya. So 3 things. They are the eternal truths of life. Pranipatena means with humility, that I know very less or I don't know anything, or I know very little of, there are so many things I should be knowing. So you keep yourself open to the grace of the Lord. Now that we could see in Arjuna Vishad Yoga itself. Arjuna was saying, I don't know, I'm getting confused. This whole war-like situation, suddenly I feel panicky. He was not afraid to admit. That is pranipatena. He said, oh Lord, you please help me. I'm totally confused. I don't know what to do. So please help me. That helps the guru or helps the teacher, in this case Krishna, to tell Arjuna what exactly he has to do. So first comes pranipatena, pariprashnena, but not just humility. False humility will not help. There are some people, they are humble and they don't want to ask questions. They feel if we ask questions to our guru or to our master, our teacher, then perhaps he will consider me to be a lowly person, or maybe to not an intelligent person. So that ego is still there. I just want to show that I know everything. Then the problem comes. Then you don't learn. So along with vinay or humility, pranipatena, pariprashnena, you have to go on asking questions. And clarify many things which you don't know. And sevaya. Sevaya means with a spirit of service. Service is important because that is karma yoga. Pariprasnena is jnana yoga. Pranipatena is bhakti yoga. So tad vidhi, to know that you pranipatena, you bow down with devotion, with humility. Pariprasnena, ask questions, that is a jnana yogi. And sevaya, do some seva, address to the Lord, do the seva of the Lord. Whatever seva we do, we are thinking that we are doing seva of the human beings, but seeing the God in them, if we do, then it becomes karma yoga. So that is what he is saying. And in the verse number 3, the clarification comes that even if you are ordinary, forget about Shuka or Shiva or Narada and all those people. They were great. They had a better understanding. So what is the hope? I mean, what will I understand? So the answer is given. Yo mam ajanmadim cha veti loka maheshwaram asammodha samarteshu sarva papahi pramuchate. So what happens to an ordinary person? Then he says, what are my characteristics of the Ishvara? First 6 verses, they will describe that. He who knows me as unborn. Unborn means one who has no birth like an ordinary human being, a jiva. A jiva has a successive birth, death, birth, that he is in the cycle of. So ajam, unborn. Ajam means birth. Ajam, one who is ajam. Yaha mam, ajam anadim. From beginningless time, I am eternally existing as Satchidananda Brahman. If I am born, then I am not Satchidananda. That is what the Lord is saying. If we know Krishna or any other incarnation as representing that great truth, not that their body is ajam, he is definitely was born, whether you consider a divine kind of birth, like they say immaculate conception of Jesus. They're not like born like ordinary people. So that may be there, but still one has to consider one's Ishta or the incarnations or the Ishvara as one who is unborn. He is there from beginningless time as the great Lord of the worlds, because without him, Prakriti can't act. Prakriti can't create these worlds and destroy these worlds. Prakriti goes on continuously creating and destroying. That's why jivas are born. They are not ajam. They are not unborn. They are born of the materials. The three gunas give birth to them in with different characteristics. But I am unborn because I am beginningless. I am eternally existing. I mean, the Lord is eternally existing as pure consciousness, the ocean of Satchidananda. We may just go and understand. Some may see it, some may touch it, some may take some sips of that ocean, but still our knowledge will remain incomplete. But what happens to the ordinary aspirant? One who is not as great as Narada, nor is great as Shuka, who have understood the Lord much more than we do, or Shiva himself, who has taken a few sips of that ocean, but still he has not taken the whole ocean. So what happens to those mortals? He says, he among mortals, asammudha, undeluded, if they are really undeluded. If they are deluded, then they will not get this concept, or they will not get this idea. So one who knows Veti Loka Maheshwaram, the great Lord of the worlds, if they have faith and if they try to know me in that form, that I am the great Lord of the world, I am Ishvara. Ishvara itself, the word means one who is Lord, is the Lord of the universe. So he Marteshu. Marteshu means amongst all the mortals. The animals are mortals, the trees are mortals, the human beings, the rishis are mortals, all are mortals, but still what will they gain? What will mortals like us gain? We are not avataras, we are not neither rishis like like our Narada and all those saints, like Shukadeva and Shiva, the Adi Guru. We are not like that. Then but what will we gain? Sarva papahi pramuchyate. We are liberated from all sins. The first thing that will happen to a jiva is he will be freed from all sins. What do you mean by freed from all sins? Freed from all sins means he will, the effect of karma, which was so far binding him and taking him towards more and more towards the gross universe, trying to bind him. Prakriti was trying to bind him. So that is because of the sins. What do you mean by sins? What is the definition of sin? The definition of sin in Vedanta is becoming more and more gross. We don't have certain things as punya and certain as papa. Doing this is a sin. So that way killing was a sin, but still Krishna is telling Arjuna to kill. So can we say killing is a sin? Like that, violence, non-violence, there are so many discrepancies in life. But the test of whether a thing is taking you is a sin or not a sin is that, is it making you more and more subtle, more and more spiritual, or is it making you more and more gross? So freedom from sins means freedom from being attached to the gross and trying to raise one's understanding of this universe, making it more and more subtle by the grace of the Lord, of course. And for that, the process is being described here. So first thing, to an ordinary person, the Lord promises that I will free you from all sins. In his absolute state, Brahman is unknown and unknowable. If you think of Brahman, what concept do we get? Because we become one with it, then there is no question of knowing. So the three things which they say in Vedanta, the triputi of the seer, the one who sees something, the seen, and the process of seeing. If in that case, these three things are not valid. The cause and effect comes only at the level of that, not at the transcendental state. There is no cause. There is, in that absolute Brahman, there is no cause, no suffering, no birth, no death. So, but since we are bound by Prakriti, then the seer, the one with the subject, the ego that says, I am seeing this incident, and then we see certain things. And there is a process which is connecting both of us. So the seer, the seen, and the process of seeing. When some Vedantists try to explain it to Thakur said, no, don't complicate it so much. He did not believe in this threefold distinction which Vedanta tries to preach. Though no doubt it is a truth, but he made it simpler. He said, Ami oi sab kichu jani na. I don't know all these things. I know only one thing, me and my ma. That means it's the same thing. Prakriti is manifesting herself as the universe. Vedantists try to say that there is a triputi jnana. That is one who sees certain objects, and the seer, the seen, and the process. They are separate. So, but in his transcendental state, a glimpse of his reality can be seen. We have to transcend Prakriti. They realize, the rishis who have a glimpse, like Sukadeva, Narada, and they might have had a glimpse, but they realize in a very intuitive way the existence of something which is imperishable as the background of this changeable Prakriti. So seeing the unchanging behind the change and not getting deluded by Prakriti. Prakriti has two roles to play. You have to remember. Through her avidya maya, she makes you deluded. She makes you run after the diversity and just confuses you, and people go after these toys. But there is another side to Prakriti we have to remember. That is that aspect of Prakriti which says, you had enough of this diversity, now go back to unity. Because from unity, Prakriti has created this diversity. So she is the motive power for creating more and more diversity, making us more and more imperfect, making us more and more gross, and making us more and more commit more and more sins. So freeing a person from sins, when the Lord says, I will free you from sins, what he means is, I will free you from this confusion where you are running after a mirage, the mirage known as the world. So every time you see a mirage in the desert, you think there is water there, we run after it. Swamiji explains this in his lecture or lectures on Maya, which he delivered in London. So he says this Maya makes you feel that there is a reality. This is one reality. There is one water body here. There's another water body on this side. Oh, everywhere I'm surrounded by water. And the moment you go near, it vanishes. So the perishing Prakriti, behind the perishing Prakriti is the imperishable. If we know that, Sri Ramakrishna used to give an example. Like Avtara is like a peephole, a small hole in a wall. If you want to look at the infinite sky, if there is a wall, it will obstruct your vision. But the Avtara permits you. It will not show you the whole sky, but through that peephole, if you look, then you will say, oh, no, behind the wall. Before that, your knowledge is incomplete. Somebody may say, outside this wall is the beautiful sky, but you will say, no, I have not seen anything. I just see this blank wall. I just see stones and all these bricks. But if you really pray to the Lord, that intuitive knowledge, this sadhaka which he gets by the grace of the Lord who reveals his truth, he gets the feeling, he sees the infinite sky, and then he feels that the Lord is unborn and beginningless, and he is the supreme Lord of the worlds. After knowing this truth, once he knows this, then he will not get caught in this Maya. But the sadhaka who is really sincere like Arjuna, who links his life entirely with the plan, he thinks it is the Lord's will, it is not my will. That ego is not there. I will do this, I will do that, then man will suffer. But if he feels that, let me not interrupt the plan of creation, the purpose of the Lord, he has certain purpose in making me do the way I am. If he does that, Sri Krishna promises, even an ordinary person, if he slowly develops that attitude, he frees himself from all sins. So we have just finished. I'm sorry I was a bit late. So if there is some question, we will stop with this. So the idea is in this third verse, which Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, there are three more verses where he gives other ideas also, but the third verse says that the whole plan and purpose is to understand that no matter how much I plan, I want things to go this way or that way, but there is a supreme Lord. If you know that, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. Swamiji said it in his immortal words. He said a great sacrifice is going on. Prakriti or Ishvara through Prakriti. And if you are willing to participate in this sacrifice, if you don't protest and don't say, I want things to happen in this way only, I want that ego comes to the picture, then their life becomes, he says, unwilling people will always grumble, will always be sad, and they will never reach the goal. Whereas others, they know that it is so nice to go with the plan and purpose of the Lord. So this is a very important verse, how to surrender and lead a life entirely commensurate with or with the plan and purpose of the Lord, and that is the only way to be freed from all the sins. Otherwise, we'll have to be born again and again. We can't get mukti. But that is given to only those people who have the humility, who have the desire for knowledge, and like Arjuna, and also those who do some kind of seva, trying to see the Lord in all other beings. So we will conclude today, and maybe if there is time, there is one or two questions we'll see. Yeah. To unveil the evil from the mind, one has to undo the ego, because ego is the root of all evil. Then God's bliss will flow in that. Is it? Yes, you are right. Somebody has asked the question So that ego is the root cause of all evil. The moment we give up that ego and make it subservient to the ego of the Lord, it's not just giving up the ego. That false humility will not help. Then the God's bliss will automatically flow. Now the next question is, we have to see God in others to perform karma yoga. Yeah, there are two ways to do karma yoga. One is to do work without any attachment. Those who don't believe in a personal God, for them karma yoga means I just go on doing. This is my duty, you do your swadharma, as Sri Krishna gave two options in the chapter on karma yoga, that you do go on doing actions, don't be attached, go on doing, because whether you get a good fruit or good result or bad result, karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanam. Don't bother about the fruits, just go on doing. That is one way. But those who believe in a personal God, for them this seva, God dedicating everything to one's Ishta, to the Supreme Lord, then a little bit of bhakti is mixed in this karma yoga. So it is also a karma yoga, but with the help of a little bit of bhakti. So you dedicate everything to the Lord. It is not for, I'm not doing these things out of ego, that it should give. I'm doing it, I may get the fruits, I may not get the fruits, but I'll go continue to do it because the Lord has given me this assignment and I should do it perfectly. And the last question is, Swamiji said that neither seek nor avoid. Did he also mean that let things happen, don't resist Brahman's plan? Not Brahman's plan, it is Ishvara's plan. When Brahman, yeah, that is what he meant. Neither seek nor avoid. Take things, try to align yourself entirely with the plan and purpose of the Lord. To know that is very difficult, but one should make an attempt to think that the Lord does everything for our good only, for our ultimate spiritual good. I am not saying good in the sense of the worldly good. Then you will say why people suffered, why Arjuna suffered, why they went to the forest and all those things. That is different. But here the good means a doer of good will never come to any grief. That is also a promise of the Lord, because he will not come to grief, because he will be becoming, no matter, he will have to fight that grief, he will have to assert his strength against all the troubles, but at the same time he will be freed from the sins. That is the greatest benefit. So that is the takeaway of this verse. So thank you, and I shall conclude today. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanam.